It's Roger Hudak. I've been the chairman of the Mayor's Southside Task Force since 2003. The Southside Task Force is made up of individual block watch captains of South Bethlehem, the major industries in South Bethlehem, which includes Lehigh University. It includes the Bethlehem Area School District, Northampton County Community College, and of course, Sands Bethlehem. So we have a great deal of input on what we'd like to see happening here in Bethlehem. Bethlehem Steel was an integral part of my life, which is the main reason that I wanted to be actively involved in this project. My dad was an executive at Bethlehem Steel. He was in charge of purchasing for the Bethlehem plant at the warehouse here in Bethlehem. The steel company took good care of my family and I. We all had jobs. My mom got a job as a cleaning lady, and let me tell you, the cleaning ladies made a lot of money back then. They made more than I did as a starting teacher with a four-year college degree. But my brother worked for Bethlehem Steel all his life after his service in the Army. My sister worked for Bethlehem Steel all the way to the end. She actually was employed by ISG and then again later on by the newer owner of the old plant. She was in the shipping department. They hired all these ladies who used to do all that stuff because no one could figure out some of Bethlehem Steel's accounting practices. So they kept them on because they knew the accounting practices and they kept it the way it should be. For that reason, I want to preserve what steel meant to Bethlehem. I worked there myself for one summer as a sand gang laborer on the blast furnaces. The guys who worked there made a lot of money, but they really earned it. If Dante's hell could be represented, it would be the floor of a blast furnace. It was that horrifying, that hot, and that dangerous. Bethlehem Steel paid very well. And they were very proud of their jobs. They were proud of what they were doing. The one thing that I saw in the short time that I was there was that everyone was friendly toward everyone else, usually. It was a tremendous mixture of ethnicities. One of the things that Bethlehem Steel did was, and if you could look at the demographics of South Bethlehem, you'd see that Bethlehem Steel actually imported my grandfather from Slovakia in 1907. He came over here as an iron worker because it was Bethlehem Iron Works at the time. And they imported a whole bunch of these. Bratislava had an iron mill, and they sort of swiped those guys, paid their fare over to the United States, and gave them the opportunity to stay here then and continue to work and send for their families, which is what my grandfather did. So the steel is vitally important to me personally. They also, the amount of people, the different kinds of folks, the different races and ethnicities that were down there made it quite a melting pot, ironically. And if you worked on a team, you were part of that team. It didn't matter whether you were black, Hispanic, or Asian. It didn't matter, which is what made Bethlehem great and still makes the South Side great. I have never worked with an organization that was as honest, straightforward as they were. Their motto was, never promise more than you can deliver, but always deliver more than you promise, which is fantastic for a corporate entity to be that way. One of the things that, living here in South Bethlehem, and I've lived on this block for 70 years. I mean, my house was down the street, was one of the big singles down the street, and I had the opportunity to buy this one. But at night, Back when steel was in the heyday, you actually wouldn't want to live here. You get used to it because the amount of noise from that plant was unbelievable. But we got used to it because when the noise meant that success, we're rolling, baby, we're rolling steel. And that was important. So we got used to it. We also got used to the dirt. I had a white car, a 57 Golden Hawk, that I kept in a garage, but I washed that car daily. That's how bad the dust was. The dust was an iron ore type dust from the ore pits, which is where the casino stands on that site. And when the wind was blowing in the right direction, that dust would come up and it would settle on the car, especially a white car, and it would chew into the paint, the wax, and everything. It was horrible. So the car had to be washed every day. The steel company actually had a car wash in their parking garage for their executives to spray the cars off when they drove in the morning. It was truly amazing, but it was a wonderful, wonderful place. At night, when the ingots were rolling out, the sky would light up in that orange glow. The orange glow is exactly the same orange as was used on the sand sign. My wife said, that's the color we want. That sign, if you can imagine, was an amazing thing in that there were so many people with so much input into it, the size, which way it would face. There would be no signage facing the north, because the north side wanted nothing to do with this casino. It was sinful. Ironically, that didn't happen. The hookers may be here, I don't know, but I never see them. The drug dealers have always been here, and I never see them either. And this is the safest neighborhood in the city of Bethlehem, because we have more cameras than CNN and Fox put together. And because we get along very well. It's a multi-ethnic group. It's sort of like the university. If you don't get along with your fellow classmates, you're not going to survive. And we get along with our neighbors. Soon. During the casino wars, as my wife and I used to call them, it was really terrible, and I took a heck of a beating. Personally, I was the president of my church congregation. There were members of the church who were very upset with me because it was sin. Yet many of them are down there now once every so often, and it isn't. And I'm not a gambler, so it doesn't bother me. When I heard about the casinos coming, it was from the mayor, John Callahan, at the time, and we discussed it at great length. We also discussed the fact that there were going to be a lot of people who were against it, and there certainly were. The Moravian community was absolutely against it on religious grounds. Many of the churches were against it on religious grounds. Some of my family was against it on religious grounds as well, and didn't talk to me for a couple of years afterward. But we knew that it was the only way that we were going to be able to fill up the vast industrial parks that were planned on the old Bethlehem steel site. It would be the only way that we could be able to move the South Side forward again and to keep it operating. 20% of our tax base was destroyed when Bethlehem Steel left. We regained some of that, and we've regained most of it now with the This actually is the reason why the Renaissance of Bethlehem was able to happen. Without these guys getting this license, it couldn't have happened. It was that important. And the casino is an important bridge, and it's important to us basically because without them, we wouldn't have Arts Quest. They do own all the real estate down there except for the Arts Quest building, PBS 39's building, and the Welcome Center. the Sands owns everything else, including all the parking lots that we use on a daily basis. So the Sands has been a very important partner, plus with all the people that they hired from, and they were mostly locals, and it's been vitally important to us. But we still have that steel town identity because of the blast furnaces. That was one of the things we wanted to do. People of Bethlehem are the people that live on this block. Okay, it's a multicultural, multi-ethnic community. And I think the whole city is getting to be that way. There are still places where they don't want Hispanics living there, which is totally ridiculous. But we are such a mix. Our elementary school up the street is a mix. If you go in there, you'll see white kids, Hispanic kids, you'll see Asian kids, every kind of kid you can think of is there. It's a huge elementary school. And that's the way the South Side is, I think. The city of Bethlehem, there are still some enclaves of whites only, but that's gone. You can tell that at the university. If you check out your university, you'll see that they're multi-ethnic, all kinds of variations of races, colors, and creeds. That's what Bethlehem, South Bethlehem, has always been. And I think the Creek Indian tribe from Alabama that's going to be purchasing it is going to be just as good a partner, if not better. But there are some things that I'm going to miss because I know what was planned, and that breaks my heart. And I don't know if that'll ever come to pass. Some of it will. Some of it has. But with the partnerships that we've established, we're going to continue with the Creeks. And that won't be for a year or two. It's going to take quite a while. So we're sort of in coasting right now. But decisions are being made politically. Decisions are being made by with the real estate, decisions that I have no part of and I don't know much about. But they are very important. And I hope to see John Callahan, who works with Mike Perucci, who is from Newmark Corporation out of New York City. I'm hoping that they will be taking over some of the responsibility for the development of the real estate, because there is a lot of real estate down there. I just hope to continue the development of the site and to preserve the historic integrity of the site, to tell the story of steel, and so that we remember where we came from.